Welcome to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam, to ETHDam.
Okay. Technical issues aside, I think we're ready to get started. So, today, this one will be fun. It's Killing with Keyboards, which is about, North Korean hackers and other APT, Advanced Persistent Threat groups that have a lot of resources and what they can do with all the data you put out there. But first, a little bit about me, so that in case there's any hackers in the audience, they can later use this to abuse me. So I'm a security researcher and full stack dev. I started actually with Minecraft modding and Infinity Go, but now I work with fuzzers, I develop stuff, I do some obscure topics in terms of research, and I also co-created WasmCov a while ago with Bartosz Barwikowski from Hacken. Since leaving Hacken, I had a bit more experience working directly with founders, and honestly that terrified me. I'm now scarred because, well, how about a little story time? Meet Sashko. Oh my, no, something's really, okay, something is a bit weird. Meet Sashko. He's a Ukrainian engineer working at Kovchik Systems. That's like a hardware secure devices company. He's a chill guy. He's good at his job, and he has a happy little family, and doesn't do anything particularly unusual. Except that from time to time, he will chat with other security professionals and follow up on what's new in the field. Always anonymously. Stuff like the ETH security community. And, blink and you'll miss him, but he does often pop up, and he shares the knowledge that he has and various bits of like useful information with others. He's generally well respected in the chats, etc., because, he's a useful guy. On the other side of the pond, and, one continent over, there is a girl. Meet Kim. She's a teenager from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And she's a Googler, okay? Every day, she fulfills her role, collecting information and creating files on various topics for others to use. Others, coworkers. And today she got lucky, because today she found Sashko. She was doing some general research around, the STM32 chip as a keyword that was provided by the government. Right now, she doesn't know much about him, not even that he's a he. But let's get back to Sashko then. So, the team that he leads hit a major program milestone, and everyone was given an expected bonus for performance reasons. For Bogdan, a manager, that was one step closer to his retirement farm, which, everybody in tech desires, right? And then it was yet another half day spent in a quarterly security update briefing talking about security stuff. Bah. And, Bogdan, of course, promised that they would have less of these, like, boring security briefings and stuff like that, because it's just a waste of time anyway, And that is the general attitude, After the briefing, the team walked into a new place serving kvass. That was just, opened up in the tech park. It caters to the companies in the park, including Kovchik Systems. And it's like a nice place for, tech workers. It has free Wi-Fi. It has these small quiet rooms for meetings, phone calls, etc. And a 15% discount for the tech employees, to keep them loyal. You just need to show your ID. It's great. It's a great place to get some, refreshments. And while in line, Sashko was talking to his team members about, do you really think a person with a security clearance needs to be reminded about, like, this stuff? Like, nobody does dumpster diving anymore. There's great security on premises and stuff. The security guys have no clue what they're talking about in general. That nobody likes security, Meanwhile, Kim's progress was slow but steady. It takes a while, Searchers need to be very, very patient. It may take weeks to find something important, just, running through different comments, through different messages, trying to figure out if there's maybe a pattern, there's maybe some writing style, clues there. But, you know, each petal helps you identify the flower it came from. And thus, each piece of the puzzle provides a new search opportunity. And, you know, Kim followed the trail from one site to another. There were many dead ends. But sometimes even seemingly unimportant bits can yield, you know, great results. Or stuff that you thought was deleted could be still found in a cache. In this case, it was a username that gave him away. He left a review for a book that he read under his, you know, cool username, and he later changed it, but the review stayed in like archive.org somewhere. So, you know, you never know. And as I said, each petal helps you identify the flower it came from. Once she had his name, it was very, very easy. She could find all this other info on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, you know, the old Google Plus that he forgot about. All of these things, they exist. The dude even had MySpace that he didn't delete. And even if he had, you know, archive.org exists. And each of these clues was producing more and more new information, you know, digging deeper into the lives of others, just finding out what they're doing with their lives. It was actually sort of fun for Kim, you know, meeting this other person, knowing so much about him, knowing what he likes, what he dislikes, how he thinks. She even had a little bit of a crush on him. And she dug deeper, you know, finding even the stuff that those closest to him didn't know about. His earlier years, the less legal stuff that he did. Until one day, Kim's work on Sashko was over. Her leader rewarded her very, very well for her 200th file. She was allowed to recommend a family member to join her at school. Soon she would even have the honor of teaching her 13-year-old sister all she learned about Googling, you know. And meanwhile, the information about Sashko was available to use freely as needed by, you know, others in the organization. I mean, it's a corporate office. And then, one eternity later, you know, maybe a year, maybe more, who knows? Who knows? Kim's government found out about maybe a certain vulnerability in some versions of like the chip architecture. You know, the formal verification process maybe didn't catch something, or there was some mismatch between the inputs and outputs, and they were thinking maybe we could use this. And they knew that Sashko's company did use some of those chips, but they didn't know which exactly they used. They didn't know which products they were in. And they did have a specific high-value target they were going after. So, you know, they wanted to check. So there was a conference, just like this one, you know. Here we are in Amsterdam. And it's a conference like this. It's not really classified, but the attendance is somewhat restricted. You need to register, you know. They will, if there is a fairly obvious North Korean here, we would probably catch them, right? And people generally need some sort of company sponsorship. There's guards in front of the center, and there's like closed-up spaces, there's open spaces, you know, the cafe, you can enter without a badge, but some other stuff maybe not. And for the sessions, of course, you need to have your badges. And, you know, a few days were already gone with the conference, and Sashko was a bit tired. And he was at the bar, you know. And he saw a guy wearing a Dynamo Kiev hat, you know. He had seen him around a few times in the past few days. He was hanging in the conference. He was working on his laptop, you know, looking like he fits in general, in the lobby, maybe some elevators. And he walked over. Like, you don't see that every day. And he was like, you know, Dynamo Kiev, here? Really? Like, you know, people have merch. I have merch on me. And And yeah, like, wow, yeah, you're the first one to notice. Wow. Yeah, of course, I'm a fan. And, you know, they start talking. Are you at the conference? Yeah, but let's not talk about work. I'm not allowed to anyway, you know. If you ask me a question, I cannot tell you literally anything. So they talked about other stuff. They talked about work. No, they didn't talk about work. They talked about sports. They talked about life, children, women, blah, 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 blah. And then a little bit about work. Just a little bit, you know. It is tough. My boss bothers me a bit. But careful not to say too much. Just venting. Eventually, Jack offered lunch. And, of course, you know, they've been talking, Sashko accepted. He was a bit hungry. And they talked some more. They were really bonding. It was a good conversation. One of those really good conversations that you remember. And at some point, Jack just asks, you know, I was hoping to hear if anyone else was using the, you know, the latest STM32s, because I'm not sure how good the documentation is. I heard some rumors. And I'd hate to be the first one to use, you know, the latest line that I know of. You know, it's risky, right? It's scary to work with something like that. And Sashko just said, you know, don't worry. We have them in all of our products. We're on this version, you know, and they're generally well documented. You didn't have to worry, you know. It's fairly easy to implement. And sometime later, you know, they talk some more. This was just a few sentences in a conversation. You miss it, you know, you miss it. And then Jack had to go. He had an early flight, you know, another conference in another city. He had to leave soon. I mean, it's better that way than for someone to realize that he was maybe not even attending the conference. And he was happy. He was very happy with how that went, you know. Jack got the confirmation he needed. He would even be able to contact Sashko again, if need be. And all of that without being forced to do anything unkind. A few weeks passed, and another dreadful exploit drops. It would seem that like the 0-day in the chip was used to actually get control of a private key that was held on a hardware wallet that, you know, was produced by Kovcek Systems. And that meant that, you know, you could get an upgrade through the multisig, and soon, you know, the rest is history. So what can you do? Well, the thing with this talk is that it's really just my journey with paranoid schizophrenia. No, not for real. But you first need to know what you're defending, okay? Like, OPSEC isn't a magic list of just do this, rules you blindly follow, and then everything is fine. No. It's like calculated moves based on your specific risks. You don't just throw on a VPN and call it a day. You need to build your defenses based on who's after you, what you're actually protecting, and what happens if they succeed. So the first question is, who are you protecting? Are you just guarding your own personal data? Or are you guarding confidential business information? Are you guarding illegal activities, maybe? Or just, you know, your right to privacy? Are you a journalist, activist, a hacker, or someone who just, you know, loves privacy as a concept? Because different assets require different levels of protection. The other thing is who is chasing, because each of these operates differently. Some use social engineering, some use technical exploits, and others can just brute force with legal power. So the stronger your enemy, the more airtight your OPSEC needs to be. And lastly, what happens if they win? What's the worst case scenario if your data, identity, or location falls into the wrong hands? Do you lose access to your accounts? Do you face legal consequences, arrest, die? If the consequences are life-altering, you better not play around. But on the other hand, you know, you don't want to be a paranoid schizophrenic here. And that's where compartmentalization, anonymity, and airtight security protocols can come in. But it's a long story, so if you got any questions, we can talk privately right after this talk, or you can contact me on Telegram or LinkedIn. Thank you very much for listening to my talk.